Devin, could you give me the A-OK when you see that live stream come up?
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
And we are live.
All right, then. In that case, we will call to order the November 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Tecumseh Board of Education. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. I have to fix a tech problem on my end. All right, sorry about that. Call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Tim Simpson. Just a second here. Tim?
And we are live.
In that case, we will call to order. Tim, are you unmuted?
So hang on. Let's try that again.
All right, Tim.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. Brings us to our good news. Mr. Hilderly?
Yeah, we're actually crammed with good news tonight. Two items that I have on the agenda and one other thing that I want to mention. First, the THS Sculpture Garden Poppy Project, which was put together by the two high school art teachers, Christine Obeid and Jackie Whiteley. They did this in conjunction with Veterans Day. And they had their art students create a variety of different poppy projects. Poppies being themed with Veterans Day from the original Veterans Day, the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour, the armistice that ended World War I, and the poppies that were presented on that day. So the students created these projects, and then community members were invited to come and pick one that they maybe liked and make a donation. Our junior ROTC cadets were the honor guard for the event on the day, on Veterans Day. But donations continued from that time up until actually they were still collecting funds today. Their goal was to raise $500 to give to veterans charities locally, and as of this afternoon had collected $850. So in typical Tecumseh fashion, well beyond the goal that the group set. So they're very excited about the turnout, and we're certainly happy to be making that donation for the local veterans groups. Also, I want to mention the Love Your Lungs contest. This took place last spring. We were recently notified of the winners. And if you have been over on the corner of 50 and 52 near Danley's restaurant, you'll see the big display of the winning submission by two Tecumseh students, Lucas Emmerich and Tanner Lindy. So they were the overall all grade level first prize winners. In total, there were 14 different Tecumseh students who placed either first, second, or third in their grade level. So a very good showing by our students. And we always have a pretty high participation level. And this year, the Tecumseh kids won the overall prize and had their submission supported on that billboard. But the message was about loving your lungs and anti-smoking and wellness in general. So nice job by those kids, and we thank the teachers from our organization who supported those submissions. And then lastly, I want to mention there's a local food truck and caterer called Sunset Ridge Barbecue. They occasionally will provide their food truck for different occasions around town, including our own staff on a variety of days. But they reached out recently and asked us if we could provide them with some families who might enjoy a holiday meal. So we have provided approximately 30 families who will receive a total of about 150 meals that will be delivered Thanksgiving Day from Sunset Barbecue with their compliments. So very nice, unsolicited, but they came to us and said, if you have some families who you think could use this donation, we'd like to do that. So thank you very much to Sunset Ridge Barbecue for reaching out and giving us that opportunity to provide this for families. 150 meals on Thanksgiving. That's outstanding by them. So that's some of the good news, but certainly worth highlighting.
Thank you, Rick. Brings us to public comment on agenda items only. We did not have anyone contact me for public comment. We need to revise or approve an agenda. Does anyone have any revisions for the agenda? All right, I do have a revision for the agenda. I would like to add a board member update to our discussion. Could I get support for that, please?
Support.
Thank you, Becky. Quick roll call vote on that. Ed?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We will add a board member update to the end of our discussion items. Could I get, well, actually, yes, let's do that. Could I get a motion to approve the revised agenda, please?
Support.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Approve the revised agenda. Ed?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as revised. First item on the agenda, scheduled reports. Lisa Shirk, you're up.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. So we're going to talk about social and emotional learning as it is happening at Tecumseh Public Schools and our new curriculum, Suite 360. All right, can you see my screen okay?
Mhm.
All right. So what is social and emotional learning? We wanted to talk about just real quick the official definition of this before we jump into some more details. So really, it's been updated to include some culture and climate and some equity pieces. But social and emotional learning is the process by which young people and adults acquire and apply their knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage their emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. This also includes an empathy piece, supportive relationships, and also making responsible decisions. So SEL can help address some various forms of inequities and also empower young people and adults to co-create thriving schools and contribute to safe, healthy, and just communities. So our next piece here with social and emotional learning is taking a look at what information are our students getting through this curriculum, which is through Michigan Virtual Suite 360. So the competencies are self-awareness and self-management. Those are in the orange, and those focus on interpersonal skills like identifying emotions and having a sense of self-confidence. If we take a look at this wheel for the social awareness and relationship skills part, that's the green section, and those focus on interpersonal skills, things like communication and resolving conflicts. And then there's one last piece that makes up our social and emotional learning wheel, and that is the responsible decision-making piece, and that's in yellow. And it focuses on skills like ethical responsibility and identifying and solving problems. So these are 5 competency clusters, and they're interrelated, and they often happen simultaneously. All right, so those are the competencies. So what do they look like within a classroom, a school, family, and a community? So social and emotional learning is more than just a curriculum or a program or a lesson. It's really diving deep into understanding self-awareness and self-management, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and relationship skills. So when these things are incorporated across settings, students benefit by seeing the connection and the application of these skills. So in the classroom, what we're using is Suite 360 student. There's a couple other components to Suite 360 that I'll talk about in just a second. Through the school promotion of Suite 360, they're building culture and climate in each building, and it looks a little bit different, and it's really taking hold and becoming a part of what our teachers are able to use as far as another tool in their toolbox. This also ties into our positive behavior interventions and supports initiative by moving to more of a restorative practice by repairing relationships and building those lifelong skills. So we're happy to see that integration. Looking at families and caregivers, there is a Suite 360 parent piece that I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight, and I know that our schools have sent out to parents as well. And the community piece is another piece that I'm really excited, which is in the works right now. So Heather Perez, working with communities and schools, she is working with me to brainstorm some ways about how can we incorporate our community into our PBIS initiatives? How can we incorporate our community into these lessons around these 5 core competency areas? So we've got some ideas, and we'll be ready to roll them out eventually, but we're still working on those. So another piece of science as it relates to social and emotional learning gains. If you just take a look at the screen here, we've got underneath our red section here, conduct problems and emotional distress are areas that social and emotional learning can reduce for students. Some of the improvements that you can see are attitudes about yourself and others in the school, positive classroom behavior, and an 11 percentile point gain on academics. So showing these soft skills benefits academic outcomes for students as well. All right, so this is another really important piece of our social and emotional learning in Tecumseh. So the cost benefit analysis of social emotional learning programs from a study out of Columbia University shows that for every $1 that's invested in social and emotional learning, we save $11 on the back end that would have been spent on interventions, remediation, dropout prevention, things like that. All right, so how did Tecumseh decide that social emotional learning was something that we wanted to take on as far as a specific curriculum? How do we determine that? So our distance learning action team met this summer with the purpose in mind of building and maintaining an infrastructure for the delivery of social emotional learning pre-K-12. We wanted to create an action plan to meet the social emotional needs of students used in a variety of circumstances, be it face-to-face, virtual, or hybrid method. And then another one of our objectives was to build and communicate among the different distance learning action teams to create this cohesive plan where we're really looking at the whole child and what we can do to help support students through that lens. So we looked at some different curriculums. We identified what our current capacity is in regards to educational technology, resources such as counselor support also, and what does that look like in each of our buildings. So we used a criteria for evidence-based programming to make sure that we looked at all aspects of the curriculum like age and grade. Is this curriculum inclusive of all of our demographics, age, gender, ethnicity, race? Components for students with disabilities, English language learners, lots of things we took a look at to make sure that we were utilizing something that was going to meet the needs of everybody. We then attended a couple webinars about different curriculums, and we decided that Suite 360 was one that would definitely benefit us in Tecumseh. So after that, we went through the Hexagon tool, and that was facilitated by Brian Jones at the ISD. It's based on the National Implementation Research Network, and it was a long process, but it was really good because it really helped us decide, is this the right fit, and is this going to be feasible? So we spent a lot of time deciding how this was going to fit within our current capacity, and is it the right fit? So from there, we have Suite 360. They created a customized website for us that our students use and parents can also use. And this website houses all of our lesson plans for students. And it also houses our parent resources as well. Right? If we take a look at what the lessons are that the teachers teach, there's a scope and sequence for each grade level. So we're going K-12. There's differentiated lessons that run along the same theme for every single grade level. So students that are in kindergarten won't get a repeat lesson the following year. It'll just build on itself, which that was one of the selling pieces for us as well. That's going to help promote our culture and our climate within our buildings and tie into our PBIS initiative as well. So along with Suite 360, here's our teacher companion guides for our teachers to use for each lesson. So, and they go through the very same scope and sequence. That helps create some predictability for not only our teachers, but our students as well. And this is what their login screen looks like for students who use Clever. Suite 360 is right down here. They can click on this and have access to their lessons. Parent resources, you can download the app and you can have lessons readily available on your phone. And I included this slide. There's some research. If you click on this link, and I won't do it right now, I'm sure you don't want to read 36 pages of research, but that's available for you if you want to take a look at it later. Just wanted you to know that the Suite 360 curriculum is evidence-based, and we're very happy with that. All right, so some of our principals commented on the curriculum, and Jacob Ansasov said, in a year that SEL is more crucial than ever, the teachers and support staff in partnership with Suite 360 have been able to support students regardless of the learning model. So that was one thing that really sold us. We can teach this if we are all virtual, we can teach this if we're all face-to-face or in a hybrid method. And then our principal at Compass Learning Center, Tricia Howard, said Suite 360 has been that missing piece to our remediation. It is the teaching component that's really helped move us from the punitive approach to more of a proactive approach. So we're able to incorporate some of those interventions and really teach students behaviors like we would teach them academics. All right. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I know it's super long, but I wanted to give you not only the background, but where we are now and kind of where we're going with it. So just getting started, but we're really excited, and I'll keep you updated as time goes on. Yeah, do you have any questions for me? If you do, don't hesitate to reach out by email or phone, and I'd love to talk more about this.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks,
Looks
Lisa.
like a quiet crowd.
Yeah, I just want to remind the board, Lisa's role in the district has evolved over the last couple of years. Her title right now is Student Support Services Coordinator. She and I have talked a little bit about maybe drilling down and focusing really on what it is that she supports. And most of what she does has to do with MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. So she's into lots of areas of social emotional learning and supports for students, whether they struggle or not. These are behaviors and things that even tier one at the grassroots level of a classroom impact all students. So she also has this very strange affinity for loving to write grants.
That I do. Yeah.
She comes to me and says things like, do you mind if I submit for this grant? And my response is usually like, anybody besides me that wants to submit a grant, that would be awesome. And she's batting near 1,000. She really does a great job with that. And many of these programs and supports that are going into our kids' toolbox are things that are being supported by these grants that she's so proficient at providing. So thank you, Lisa. Well done tonight. And thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. We've seen at Compass, we've seen ground level results from the programs you've implemented over there, or you have all implemented over there.
Yeah.
They're bearing fruit, and we do appreciate it. And we appreciate every dollar grant you can get us. Please
Good. That's good to hear.
take all the time you want to get us more money.
We're working on it.
Thank
for
you,
sure.
Lisa.
There's a couple more coming up. So thank you very much. We appreciate it too.
All right, that'll move us on to our discussion items. First discussion item is our substitute teacher pay rate continuation from last week. Rick, do you have more information?
We did provide a little information for you in the packet, and there's numbers involved, so Kelly may want to chip in on this. We tried to do a 3-year study of what we have spent from our general fund to support substitutes. Now, I emphasize general fund because there are more sub jobs in the district each year than what is reflected in that report. And that's because most of the training that either comes from the ISD or is in our school improvement plan is based on the Title I or Title II funding that supports professional development. So we didn't include those funds in this. This is what we've budgeted from general fund, and general fund substitutes are typically those 5:00 a.m. wake ups where you realize that either you or somebody in your household is sick and you're not coming to work today. Those things are paid for by general fund. The stuff that we know is coming usually doesn't get paid for with general fund money. We can anticipate it and we have it isolated in one of those grants. So that's kind of a definition of what's in that report that we gave you. I can't say a lot about the last 3 years worth of sub costs because I was only here for one of those. That particular year, I'll say that we were under budget for subs, but we also were turned out in May or in March and didn't require as many subs. So that's one of the reasons for the fewer dollars being spent. This year to date, we have spent just over 10% of the money that we had budgeted. And we're a little more than 25% of the way through the school year. So we're on track to underspend that again. I mentioned that last meeting that could be the case. It appears right now, if that trend continues for the year, that we probably will underspend. Kelly created a couple of different formulas to figure what additional expense we might want to budget for. So I'll let her talk about how she came up with those numbers.
Great. So the board asked for at the last meeting a 3-year comparison. So I ran a report on Rip mentioned general fund sub costs for the last 3 years. I took a 3-year average of those years and then divided them by 180 instructional days to get a estimated sub cost per day. And then obviously the $5 increase and a $10 increase, what that would cost, estimated cost the district.
So in total, if we raise the daily sub rate $5 a day, we're talking about just under $700 worth of additional costs. And if we raised it $10 a day, a little over $1,300. So pretty low numbers as we expected. Mostly, I think, because the demand for subs right now is low because of the virtual approach and things like that. So just wanted to provide that information. Are there any questions about this information, or is there maybe something more that you had been looking for?
I've got a quick one. Do you think our ability to get subs and better subs would be impacted by raising it $10 or $15?
I believe so, just based on what the reason that I brought this to the board, which was that we're failing to fill jobs because of the discrepancy, even though that it's a small amount. So we would expect that if we raise the amount, then we'll have a better chance of filling those jobs. So that might be the difference between the 10% spent over 25% of the year. We may catch that up because we could be filling more jobs.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to raise the daily fee at least $10.
Okay, well, it'll come up again as a action item, and we're happy to do that if the board so chooses.
How does this compare to other schools?
In terms of the amount budgeted,
Well, in the amount per hour, or the amount you pay them, or our pay versus their
yeah,
pay?
that was in the table that we provided last meeting that shows that in some cases we're the same, in some cases we're a little behind, and in some cases we're a little ahead. We're not completely out of line, but unless you're the number one, if
Right.
the phone, if you go online into the system and Adrian, who pays $10 more than us, has a job, and Tecumseh does, they'll take the $10.
Right, that's, I guess, where I was going with that.
Yeah, it's not equal across the board in the county. So we would be setting ourselves up at the top of the scale, and therefore hopefully becoming the choice of the subs.
Okay,
And we are meeting the top of the scale. We are not setting a new high water benchmark here at all. We're just bringing ourselves up to the top
Trying
of
to
the scale.
compete.
Correct, Rick?
subs.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Let's move right on to the 2020 and 2021 first budget revisions.
Okay, so this has been hanging around now for about 6 weeks when we first proposed it, and we have been as careful. Kelly has been very careful to make sure that we're really close to the nickel. And I'm glad that she has done that, because it's really a year where you don't necessarily understand everything like you used to. So with the super blend and the student count information now verified, we feel confident in saying that this is the budget, the revised budget that we recommend. Kelly, anything further from you?
But I would just add that between the last time we discussed the budget and tonight's the information that the board has in their packet, the student super blend number got reduced slightly, less than 5 students overall. So, we have done a really good job of making sure that we capture every single student that we possibly can.
And then in doing so, the projected ending fund balance is still a pretty healthy number, 17.42% approximately, which, boy, back in the spring, we were pretty nervous about where that information might land. So we're happy about that, and happy to have some of the things in the budget that are going to enhance the system overall.
So we looked at the proof of attendance, which is all wrapped up in this, I believe. Before we were having a little bit of issue with, I guess, contact time and
Yeah.
verifying attendance. I see we have an update to that. Could
Yeah.
you,
And the update doesn't make sense either.
no,
No, because it says that we're at 100%, and all we do is we take this form that was provided to us and we plug in our numbers, and the formula is supposed to self-calculate. And it's reporting that we're 100% in compliance, but we know we're not, because you just look at the sheet and it says that there's 22 people who we weren't able to contact. We're still working on that with the ISD who provided us the form. We're not that worried about it, because all we're required to meet is 75%, and we're clearly well over that. I still don't have a good explanation from pupil accounting at the ISD why that form doesn't tabulate the percentage correctly. And I wish that I could give you a better explanation, but I just don't have one.
all right. And the 22 kids, we're talking still about contact time for virtual students. We're not talking about 22 kids left behind here, right?
We're not, no, it's just those 22 students, when we've reached out, and I believe that they're all members of the TVA. They either won't or can't, but at least don't communicate back with us.
All right, Tim? You're muted, Tim.
Slowly click. There we go.
Hi, good.
I got a couple questions. I assume the big increase on the federal money is the CARES Act. Is that correct?
That would be correct, absolutely.
Okay. So we probably shouldn't count on that next year, right?
Absolutely. It's one-time money.
And then a big jump in instructional staff from the even audited to budget to now, almost $700,000, it looks like. What exactly does that entail?
Well, that was a lot of the putback stuff when we cut staff out of the budget to balance things back in the spring.
Yeah, but last year's it was 800 some thousand. This year it's 1.5. So I don't understand why it jumped 750,000 from last year's number.
Well, some of that also is grant funding. We have gotten additional grant funds
Okay.
through Title I.
Okay.
But isn't that
But that would be up in the revenue area, wouldn't it?
right?
Well, yes, some of that would be in the revenue area as well. But it is the restoration of those with the cut positions.
Isn't that left column the audited actual of what
Right.
we spent in 19 to 20?
Right. And we didn't cut any positions last year. So that's why I'm a little confused, is because, it's audited from last year of 800,000, but now we're at almost 1.6 million.
Double it.
Oh, yeah, almost doubled. So I that's why I just wondered what's that going for?
Right. So yeah. So I do know when I was budgeting, I provided a document from their payroll system. It's actual positions in the district. And that gets incorporated in the budget. And then actually that's what the base budget was built on, the projected budget for that the board passed in June. And it was based on that, and then restoring the positions in this for the fall count, and the positions that were restored for fall. You know, I wasn't here last year. I can't speak to the positions, but I do know that, you know, I'm taking my information directly from our financial system.
Okay, I guess I'd like to know what the difference is before we go approve something like, I mean, it's doubled. I don't understand why it's doubled. No one has an explanation why, because last year's budget was 800,000, now we're at almost 1.6.
Well, but last year's was the audited actual, so what we see
Right,
on instructional staff was 800,000. What
right.
projected for this year was the same at 797, but we aren't having people staying at home doing virtual. Well, I mean, at least at the beginning of the year we didn't, but at the end of last year you had a lot of. Is that account for people being at home, or what does that do?
No, we still paid the staff last year, so I
Okay,
don't.
yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of weird that we're
Yeah.
pulling the cost of staff compared to last year, as well as compared to the budget that you guys had set for 2021. That's odd.
Yeah, yeah.
I just pulled some documents that we had when we were discussing the budget. And for instructional staff, it was showing $1,093,391 was the audited actual for the 18-19 school year.
Yeah, we're looking at 1920 audited right here on this budget.
And getting into the 19-20 final revised budget, we had 824.
The,
We're kind of
the,
we're
au-
back to
the
where we-
audited says 801, so we gotta go with the audited, but
I understand, but I'm saying that it was over $1 million in the 18-19 audited actual budget. So I'm wondering if we're getting back to kind of where we were as far as our staffing then.
I don't know. I know the cuts were made in the 1920 budget, but I can't imagine we doubled our staffing cost. That's a lot of bodies.
I can think of a few budgets or salaries that would have brought that down.
John, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, the overall expenditures are up almost $2 million from our audited 1920 budget. So when we originally did the cuts, I thought we were cutting like 700,000 or 800,000 from our budget. And so I'm trying to understand why our audited actual budget is 2 million different than our final revised budget. I mean, everything seems, I didn't remember us having a $2 million gap when we did our original budget.
Yeah, because
When we made the cuts last spring, those totaled just over 1.8 million.
the state was saying at one point $700 a kid or something.
Sky was falling, yep.
Yeah, the sky was falling. Everybody's scared.
And we tried to maintain a fund equity of 10%. So we cut right around 1.8 million out of the budget from last year
Right.
in the final revision. So this year's budget being around $2 million ahead of last year's ending audited budget is because of the $2 million being put back in. Am I correct, Ellen?
Yes, Rick's correct. So, you know, in the projected original budget, there's $1.8 million of cuts, and those cuts got restored in this budget revision. All those positions got restored. It was 7 teachers, it was 9 instructional assistants, you know, all those costs add back up. You know, approximately those positions alone, we're talking $1 million. And there were other positions that were also restored and some additional ones in the budget, such as, we're hoping to hire a special ed director. We hired the communications PR person. There's my accounting staff in my department in this budget. There's the new HR director, so we did restore all those costs that were originally cut from the beginning projected budget.
Yeah, but the HR director we had last year, we were paying LISD, so I mean, those things were all in the final budget. So I just wondered why it doubled instructional staff from 800,000 to 1.6, and so.
Yeah, I mean, a large portion of that $1.8 million that we had to cut out to balance the budget at the end of last year was staffing. And it was around $700,000.
John, before you
But
jump in
that was
here,
for the new budget. That was for the 2021 budget. We didn't cut it out for.
We did have to cut it out of the 1920 budget in order to get it to balance last year.
No, because we thought we were gonna hit. No, we thought we were gonna have a pretty big hit at the end of the year, because you can't just all of a sudden deduct 7 teachers out of your budget 3/4 of the way through the year. So we deducted it for 2021 budget, but we didn't deduct it out of the 1920 budget. You can't do that 3/4.
No, we just deducted the fund equity from
right
16 that we projected down to 10.
Right. So
hey, John, before you jump in here, Rick, refresh my memory on this. In February, before all this COVID stuff hit, were we short of staff at that time? Are we making up for staff that we should have been replacing back then before all this COVID hit, the financial instability? Or were we good on staff back then?
I believe that we were fully staffed at that time.
Okay. John?
When Kelly was talking about her moving stuff away from the LISD and bringing it in-house, that's not going to fall under instructional staff. That would fall under, I'm assuming, school administration. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You just mentioned, Don, that overall expenditures were $2 million higher. That's one of the reasons. We're at, well, actually, it was a little bit of increase because for whatever reason, the HR director position in the beginning projected budget was removed from the budget. It was, it was budgeted at 0. Obviously, we hired that position now. So actually, it was a slight cost increase, though. If you take it and compare it to last year, it's an overall decrease in comparison to costs for HR and the accounting department from last year.
Right. So that's the question. So our expenditures are up $2 million, but we actually saved money in the HR, payroll, and accounting department. We should be budgeting a savings in this year versus last year.
Oh, well, and also some of the that line item in instruction is not just teachers. So that's certainly part of it because we restored those positions. We've also been spending a lot of money, our CARES Act money, on instructional supplies such as our computers. And that's in that line item as well, because those are direct instructional supplies providing computers to our teachers, students, well, and our teachers too. They also got new computers. So that's that's a large part of the increase. Our CARES Act money was $941,000, the bulk of which, almost half of which was based on one-on-one devices, was purchased with one-on-one devices.
Yeah.
So actually that is a large part of why instructional costs are so high, or much higher than in comparison to the audited actual.
So you're saying that the cost of computers and supplies falls under instructional staff?
When it's used for one-on-one computing devices, yes, it's instructional.
Okay, so all the computers that we're buying with the 900 Chromebooks and 900 Chrome pads and everything
Right.
falls under that instructional
Instructional.
staff.
Instructional, yep.
Okay, I guess in my accounting brain, that doesn't make sense, but I guess that because it wouldn't be, when I think of instructional staff, I think of paying people, not the actual supplies or overhead for the classroom, but that makes more sense why that number would be higher.
Right. And it's not just instructional staff, it's the whole process of the whole activity of providing instruction. That's why they call it basic program. So yes, providing one-on-one technology is part of that instructional cost.
Okay, that makes more sense then as to why that would be so much higher.
If that's where it's coming from, fine, but again, when a layperson looking at that would say, we just doubled everybody's, you know, the people that are working, the instructional people had doubled up, you know, and I know we're balancing out and everything, you know, as far as like our projected fund balance at the end is better than where we anticipated being at, but again, it's just too bad that isn't on its own special line item. You know, in and out, if you're getting it from the CARES Act and you're putting it out as computers, so that you're not looking at that for next year and saying, well, we're going to have $1,587,000 for instructional staff, and we're not going to be buying new computers next year. So.
Right. I mean, if the board wants to take a look at the statement of projected revenue, expenditures, and fund equity summary sheet, I mean, just take a look at your audited actual federal grants, which were 239,000 last year versus 1.6 million, almost $1.7 million this year. The bulk of that is the CARES Act money, which we purchased, like I said, instructional supplies and items for our teachers to, you know, and our students.
Yeah, that part makes sense once we see that. I think if that instructional staff line could include like instructional staff and, you know, classroom expenses or something, I understand where everyone else is coming from, but what you just said makes sense, and it does.
Equipment.
Yeah.
The line item title is a bit of a misnomer. That's it throws you for a curve there. You're expecting people. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I actually thought that money was in the operations / maintenance, because that was up by about a 900,000.
So Tim, you're correct. Some of that $500,000 in CARES Act money was purchased with PPE supplies, but
Okay.
a large portion of it was based on our one-on-one technology.
So what was you're saying the $900,000 increase in the operations and maintenance is PPE supplies?
Not all of it, but some of it. We're also using some of our CARES Act money to do an HVAC upgrade. It's not a new HVAC. We're just putting in a fancy filter system to make our air quality better and help prevent the spread of the airborne diseases.
Yeah, it's an ionizer that helps filter out the virus.
How much was that?
Approximately 190,000.
And that's just one school, or that's all the schools?
It's two schools at the high school in Compass right now.
Okay.
Did we bid that out?
Actually, we did not bid that out due to the pandemic. We fell under emergency uniform grant guidance guidelines that we did not have to bid that out, though we certainly received quotes. And we ran that through our auditor and then made sure our thinking was correct.
I guess as a board member, we'd probably want to know about big ticket items like that, I would think. I don't know, that we're going out for bid for those kind of things and so forth. I mean, we don't want to be micromanaging, but that would have been nice to know if someone walks up and goes, hey, why'd you spend this kind of money? We could have told them. I didn't know anything about it. I don't know, maybe other people did, but I didn't. So.
Yeah, the ventilation system is not something that I remember to update the board on. But it's a relatively recent addition that Tom's been working on.
Is there a reason why that didn't require board approval?
Yeah, as Kelly mentioned in the emergency funding process, that was allowable.
I guess in the
It falls
future, we
under
probably want to
policy.
hear about that. I mean,
Uh,
we had a bid process and everything else for $100,000 worth of Chromebooks. So we just spent $190,000 on air filters. We should probably hear about that going forward.
Agreed.
It does fall under the pandemic or emergency clauses of the policy and for the accounting and the state. It all falls under there, but I would agree that we'd like to get a little bit advance notice of it. Even if it falls under there for something like that, if we've got time to get quotes, we've got time to discuss it at a board meeting probably.
What was it required by the, or was that our option to do it or not?
It wasn't required. It was a health and safety upgrade
Right.
to
Yep.
the
It was
old system.
an upgrade by choice.
Right, yeah, I would definitely like to know about that in the future.
Is there anything else that was bought in, under that same guidelines?
So with their CARES Act money, there was various things that were spent, but the primary bulk 3 items were the one-on-one technology, PPE equipment, and then probably the next largest would be the HVAC filter system, the ionosphere.
The amount that you told us was and you said it was for 2 schools. Was that amount total or per school?
And that was total.
Total. And then are you anticipating fitting them for the rest of the schools?
That they may be planned in the future budget for next year. It is not planned for this year. Not at this time, anyway.
So this was
That
done,
money,
it was done with CARES Act money, and what useful purpose did it serve? I mean, did it cut the rate of infection by 50%? Or I mean, or was it just recommended or?
I don't know that we have any statistics on what it has done. Its purpose is to help filter the virus and not only the coronavirus, but other viruses.
Right.
Through an ionization process, and I'll sound like I am a scientist, and I'm not. But essentially what it does is it releases particles that attach to the virus that make it large enough to be caught by the filters in our ventilation system, and reduces the amount of virus in the air by well over 90%. So its purpose is to try to purify the air.
And is this multiple viruses or specifically aimed at this virus, or are they all kind of the same size?
Multiple viruses,
Okay,
but including coronavirus.
right, okay. So it'll be good for us in the future.
Yeah, it has a shelf life. It's not just targeted to this.
however, it's notable that the money for this all did come from the CARES Act. So unless there's a second CARES Act, the money's coming out of our pocket next time to do the other buildings.
Right, unless there's more federal relief money, and we wanted to add this to other HVAC systems, we would have to pay for it.
All right. Is there any other discussion regarding the budget revision? All right, we're quiet, so we'll move on to refunding of the 2015 refunding bonds, Series A. Rick?
I'll defer to Kelly on this. This has to do with refunding the bonds and the process. So I'll let her talk about how that works.
Right. So in your board packet this evening are a lot of legal documents revolving around the process of debt restructuring or bond restructuring. The ultimate goal of this process is to save the community taxpayers as a group approximately $2 million and keep the mills that we pay on the current bond debt around 7 mills. And without restructuring, those mills would continue to creep up and causing the taxpayers to pay more money out of pocket. So the goal of this refunding is again, to save the taxpayers in our community $2 million overall and keep the current mills at the same level that it is. And then the processes will be going actually out for the private market based on Tecumseh's line of credit. We believe that we'll have some takers going on in the private market. And the timeline was in your board packet as well. But ultimately is this whole process has to be done so we can get it on the tax rolls for June. Gives us plenty of time. So even if something should occur that we don't have any takers on the private market, we can also go to the public market as well and open up the potential investors.
All right. Are there any questions for Kelly on this? All right. I do not see any questions on that. Summer tax resolution. Are we deferring to Kelly again, Rick?
Please.
Kelly?
All right, so my apologies, let me grab that. So also in your packet is the summer tax resolution. Basically, the board needs to pass a resolution every year around this time in order to ensure that we can collect our local property taxes in the summer collection. As we have done, we collect 100% of our property taxes that belong to the school in that summer collection. And this resolution this evening enables us to continue to do so.
Any questions from the board? All right. Resolution. Rick, this one's you. Extended continuity of learning plan.
Right. We've been through this one time successfully. We're basically asking the board to recertify the extended continuity of learning plan and the modes of instruction that the district participates in. We're continuing to offer distance learning face-to-face when it's available and the virtual academy. So we're just requesting that the board reapprove the plan that has been in place.
All right. Questions from the board? All right. Next is the board member update, and this one is me. We have 2 board member elects that are currently, hopefully, they got their board packets for this week. We're getting them onboarded so that as of the first of the year, when they take their seats, they will be current on the board business in real time, and they will be effective from day 1. They are hopefully following along at home. I expected to have them at a meeting, but I expected all of us to be in a meeting too. So hopefully they're tuning in at home. I have received an email from Milt, which says that he has decided that since retiring, he is going to, he has retired professionally and he is going to step down from his board position and resign his board position. It says, I will briefly read part of it. I need to step down from my position on the Tecumseh School Board effective immediately. There are many reasons, and the most important is family. Becky and I will be traveling out of town frequently over the next few months, which will make it impossible for me to attend the meetings. The school district needs a board member that can attend the meetings on a regular basis to ensure proper functionality. He sent this to me. It was dated the 18th. Unfortunately, it went in my spam folder, but I did discover it after talking to him. So we are going to need a replacement for Milt. And given the 18th, that means our timeline is the next meeting. We're going to have to appoint somebody to replace Milt. So we will get it out in the paper again. And we'll get it out in the paper again, and we'll have to act at the next meeting to take action to appoint. John?
I just want to say Milt's not retiring. At least he didn't tell me that. So
Well,
he's still going to be around here working for the next 4 years or so. So he has not retired from work.
not officially retired. Sorry.
No.
I meant stepping away and traveling and such.
Yes.
Breathe, John.
Yeah, I don't need that.
Sorry.
Stress. I had my stress
Like,
reliever
oh,
tea this
no.
afternoon. It's not working.
Hey, John, would it be a board meeting if I didn't stick my foot in my mouth? Come on.
I just
So-
want to make it clear that Milt is not retiring from work.
Right. He's doing some traveling and such, and yes, not officially retiring. But as of the board meeting, December 14th, I believe, is our next board meeting. We will have to appoint him or appoint a replacement at that time to fall within the 30-day window. So we'll get the word out in the paper, we'll take applications, and we will revisit this topic on the 14th. That is the board member update.
I just
Which
want to
brings
mention
us to-
on that topic, Kevin, I just wanted to thank you in front of the rest of the board. The process that he's been on since really the day after the election to keep these board members updated and bring them in with as much preparation and information as possible is a credit to him and certainly going to help support the students and staff of the district. So I appreciate the way that you have provided that information, Kevin.
That's what we're here to do. Make it run smoothly as possible. We're going on to our action items. And first action item is our budget revision. Could I get a motion, please?
I hereby move to approve the Tecumseh Public Schools Board of Education adopt the budget resolution as part of the first budget revisions of the fiscal year 2021 for the general fund account.
Support.
Roll call. Ed?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tim?
Give me a minute.
I read lips, that was an aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And the chair votes aye. Budget is approved. Substitute teacher pay rate. Becky?
I hereby move to approve an increase to the daily substitute teacher pay rate by the amount of $10 a day as supported by administration, effective 11/30/2020 to help attract and retain qualified teacher substitutes at TPS.
Support.
Thank you. Ed?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Unanimously approved. Last action item. Becky?
I hereby move to approve the extended continuity of learning plan as presented and approved by the board in September 2020 and acknowledges the board's pupil count process, which provides for two-way communication with students. The board also directs administration to post and submit said plan as required by MDE.
Support.
Thank you. Ed?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. Unanimously approved. That will move us to our consent agenda.
I hereby move to approve, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of November 9th, 2020, and minutes from the budget committee meeting of November 9th, 2020.
Support.
Ed,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved unanimously. Superintendent's report is next. Mr. Hilderly.
A few things. We have been talking about the superintendent's evaluation process, and I know that all the board members are aware of why we're not doing that right now, but I wanted to mention in the public setting, MASB, who has been facilitating the evaluation process this year, is no longer sending their consultants out into public meetings. So the board was given two choices: either run that process virtually or postpone the process until the spring. That was kind of in alignment with what we were struggling with, having to do with objective student growth data that was going to probably have to wait until May anyway. We did not do a spring evaluation of student growth, so therefore we really didn't have anything to compare to. This year we did do a pre-test, and we'll have growth data in the spring. So the board agreed that we would put the process off, ending in probably May of next year, so that the superintendent evaluation will be certified by the June 30 deadline. So we're not forgetting about it. We're just putting it off for a couple of purposes of practicality. The second semester plan is still evolving and coming together. We have reached out through classroom teachers, specifically the distance classrooms right now, and also TBA, because we're interested to see in the second semester, which begins for 5th through 12th grade on February 1st. We're interested to know how many families would like to come back into whatever face-to-face model we are in at that time, because that does impact our program. It impacts social distancing and other safety protocols. So we're trying to get that information. It's a little early in a lot of people's minds to be collecting that information, but that process takes time to plan. So we're trying to mine for that information as early as we can. Certainly we don't know a lot about vaccine rollout and efficacy, or how many people are going to opt for a vaccine. And that all I know plays into people's thoughts and concerns about the future. But we are trying to collect that information now. We would like to go into the holiday break in the end of December with a structured plan, if possible. So we're going to try to have that done here in the next month before we go into the holiday break, so that we can communicate it and then staff can begin to prepare. I know some of our families are struggling with those decisions, but the sooner we have the information, the better plan that we can construct, and we can make decisions about, like I said, social distancing and space in our classrooms, and whether or not we would have to continue with a hybrid mode to be able to accommodate those things. So there are a lot of things to consider, and that's the reason for the early collection of information. And then the reorganization update, which is a little further over the horizon for the 21-22 school year. We have been talking about that. The main information that we're trying to get straightened out has to do with the organization of the 3-4 schools, the intermediate learning centers that will be at Herrick Park and Patterson next year, and figuring out how those buildings get populated, not only for next year, but year after year. And that conversation involves some geography, it involves busing, it involves all the practical matters of balance between the two buildings and staffing. So that's why we have begun that process now, because it's going to take us a while we're maintaining this school year and planning for the second semester and working to talk and think about the next school year. We just know that we want to have as much time as possible to try to have that figured out going into the summer for this year. So we're working on it. And we plan to fully complete the reorganization with the 2 early learning centers, the 2 intermediate learning centers, a 5-8 middle school, the high school, and then the TVA. And then some very good news finally, and thanks a lot to Victor Pratt, our communications director. We will be launching the new website. I think that it'll happen overnight tonight and probably be available for people tomorrow. We still have to work with Apple to get the app launched from the App Store. So that'll take another week or so. But the website, which right now, is just really not very useful, has been completed and will be functional for staff and the community sometime overnight tonight and into tomorrow, like I said. So we're happy about that. Victor's done a lot of work in completing the final pieces and getting that ready. And he sent a little teaser out to social media. If you follow any of our social media, you might have caught on to the fact that he put that out there. So kind of fun and really exciting. It's been a process that I started about a year ago and did not expect to take this long, but happy to report that we're finally meeting that goal. And that's all I have for tonight, unless you have questions.
All right. I saw his little teaser on Facebook. I was hoping that's what it was about. So.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Items scheduled for next agenda. We'll, of course, have some good news and some discussion items. We just don't know what they're going to be yet. Action items will include the summer tax resolution, refunding of the 2015 refunding bonds, and we'll probably have some board member discussion about who knows what. That brings us to our closing. Public comment. We did not have anyone contact us for public comment on open topics. Board member comments or discussion.
Just real quick. Sorry, Tim, if I cut you off. You were probably nice and raised your hand. I didn't. Unfortunately, we're back in the Zoom and it is what it is. It was really nice having us all together, but we're back here for a reason. And just, again, thank you to our staff and our administration for trying to work through all of this for us. And we will get through. We'll get there. It's just one little step back, but we'll get 2 steps forward here real soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Becky. Tim?
I just wanted to say, I know we're everybody's in the distance learning right now. And, we're supposed to go back on Monday or whatever it is. But personally, I think we stay in the distance learning until after the new year. There's gonna be a lot of family gatherings, a lot of older family members that are really vulnerable to this virus. And I think it would be wise if we just stay in it. Maybe, I think, where do we come back to January 4th? Maybe stay in distance learning till the 11th or something. I don't know, just to protect our most valuable citizens that we have in our community. I think it would be wise. Because, I don't have my grandparents anymore. And, it hurts when you don't have them at your family gatherings, but I think, our kids aren't going to know. They need to know their grandparents. And I think if we stay in the distance learning now until after the Christmas break, I don't have a problem with it. So,
I think that's one of the things Rick's been working on.
So anyway, I just want to put it out there. I
have something to say in that respect. I think we need to poll the public like we have been. And although I agree with what Tim's saying, and I love my parents and my grandparents, and I always have, but we have to do what's best for kids. And unfortunately, not every family is equipped to have their kids home all day. And so we need to take into consideration what the people of this community want, and we need to plan accordingly. Well, according to the feedback we get, because I truly want to do what's best for kids, and I gotta believe it's best for kids to be in school if at all possible. But I realize there's, rules and regulations and, social distancing, and then rules about what happens. But I think that's a conversation we all need to have, because the science tells me that kids aren't at a huge risk for this, but they are at a risk for bringing it home. But we have to try to accommodate what's best for most of our students, or all of them.
What is the pause? When is the pause button over with from the governor? Rick?
That date actually is the 8th of December for secondary schools, for 9 through 12 schools, and for colleges. So about a week and a half after we return from Thanksgiving is the mandate from the Department of Health and Human Services for secondary. We're going to be communicating with staff tomorrow, and then later in the day with our parents about what our next move is going to be. I've committed with the administration not to disclose that information in tonight's meeting, simply because our communication protocol is always to try to communicate the information to the board and to our staff in that order, if not simultaneously, and then our community. So we'll take that opportunity to make those notifications and have that information out so that people can plan accordingly.
But again, it is after Thanksgiving holiday, and I have to say it, my gut feeling is that's going to be extended by the state health department and such. And there's a good chance we won't even have to discuss this. We're only going to be able to follow dates from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, entirely possible.
So.
All right. Any other board member discussion or comments? They're mighty quiet. All right, then we shall adjourn this meeting at.
I'll make a motion to
8:20.
adjourn the meeting.
Oh, yeah. I'm in a hurry to get it done too. Go right ahead. Make a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a good night, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.